On that railroad strike and its potential impact on the country, the House voted today to impose a White House-brokered labor agreement affecting railroad unions nationwide. The bill passed on a bipartisan vote of 290 to 137. Now, if the Senate follows suit, an economically devastating strike would be averted. A key sticking point, a move to add paid sick leave to the agreement. For more now, I am joined by my CBS News colleague, Nancy Cordes, here at the desk. She is our chief White House correspondent, and Scott MacFarlane from the U.S. Capitol. He is our congressional correspondent. Nancy, I want to start with you. So there are a lot of procedural weeds to go through in the House and the Senate, but what is the White House thinking about how likely it is Congress will do what needs to be done to avert this railroad strike?
Well, the White House is expressing confidence. They say they believe that there's going to be a bill on the president's desk by this weekend for him to sign. They say that has to happen to head off this potentially economically devastating rail strike. But there are still, as you say, some procedural hoops that the Senate has to go through. First and foremost, do they have the votes in the Senate to pass this? They passed it in the House, but several key senators on the right and the left have suggested that they may not go along with this for various reasons. First of all, some progressives don't want to be seen as, doing something that flies in the face of what unions want and what unions are standing up for. They're pushing for a side-by-side vote on giving these workers more sick days. And so we don't know exactly when the Senate vote is going to take place. We know that they want to hold it by the weekend, and we don't know if they're going to hold votes on amendments. Once you start opening that door to amendments, as you know, then there can be any number of Republicans and Democrats who come forward and say, well, I'm not going to vote for this until I get my amendment as well. And for the audience's benefit, it's essentially now a two-track process. You have the bill to impose the labor agreement, which Congress has the authority to do if it so decides. Yes. Then a separate idea, which is sort of late in the process, to have legislation to, as I understand it, impose paid sick leave days on top of the agreement. Right, because what happened was back in September, the 12 labor unions, rail unions, negotiated with the help of the administration with the rail companies. And they struck a deal that increased pay by 24% over 5 years, gave them another paid vacation day, but didn't do anything to provide paid sick leave. And so 4 of the 12 unions voted against this deal, against ratifying it. And so they're now saying, hey, look, if you're going to force us to take this agreement that we don't like, why don't you just tack on a couple of sick days? You know, come on, President Biden, you're supposed to be the most pro-union president of all time. Do this for us. But it's not as simple as that, because then, you know, it's bad enough in the view of some members of Congress that they're basically kind of strong-arming the unions into accepting a deal. Now they're saying, you want us to basically figure out what this contract should look like? That just creates an even more sticky situation. Essentially putting Congress in the position of adding something that was not worked out at the negotiating table, and all sorts of members of Congress, for institutional reasons, are hesitant to do that. Scott, I want to bring you in because there's another topic that I know you have original reporting on. There was a long-running legal battle, now resolved, between the House Ways and Means Committee and former President Trump over his tax returns. What is the latest? What do you know?
Spoke with the House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Richard Neal of Massachusetts, who has been part of this years-long saga to get his committee copies of Trump's tax records. On the record, speaking to us, Congressman Neal says he can't acknowledge whether they've received them or not based on an IRS regulation that prohibits such. But the Treasury Department confirms that it has completed its court-ordered duties, and its court-ordered duty was to submit those records to the U.S. House Committee on Ways and Means. There's a deadline to note here, December 31st, or to be more technical, January 2nd. The House Democratic majority is lost on January 3rd, so Chairman Neal and his committee have until January 2nd to move on this in any way they see fit. And the chairman told us they are going to finish their duties on this, likely synthesizing these records into some type of report or release to the public, but there are just 4 or 5 weeks to do so. And speaking about the railway labor issue, it really just is imperfect to have anybody's livelihood hanging in the balance of a congressional deadline, and we are seeing that manifest itself today. Speaking with a number of members of Congress, 2 things jumped out I think both of you will appreciate. First of all, the silence was deafening from U.S. senators about what the path forward was, which indicates they don't really know the timetable or the formal steps here. There are amendments that are likely to be looming, and they're not sure how they're going to navigate those. But also, it just jumps out at me, the odd coalition or the unique coalition in the U.S. House today that passed it. dozens of Republicans joining most of the Democrats, some liberal members, some moderate members of the Democratic caucus voting no, and a whole potpourri of Republicans voting yes. Just a unique circumstance.
And Scott, I want to ask you again on the tax issue, because one of the issues resolved by the courts was, did the House Ways and Means Committee, as an institution of the House, have a legislative intent or legislative curiosity that could be legitimated? And it seems to me with this tight deadline, there are 2 points of pressure for the House Ways and Means Committee to get through this and render some sort of judgment about what it does or doesn't mean. And does it suggest anything legislatively that would vindicate the court's acceptance of its argument that there was a true legislative curiosity behind this inquiry in the first place?
Yeah, they really had to make that argument to win the legal battle, that there is a legislative purpose, not simply a motivation to embarrass the former president or be provocative in showing what the former president did or didn't pay in taxes. The argument they've made, somewhat unambiguously, is that they want to make sure they have proper legislative oversight of how presidents' tax records are audited or released, or whether there should be legislation to require the release of tax records by a major party presidential candidate. Now, obviously, there's no time left or bandwidth to pass legislation in this Congress regarding the president's taxes or a former president's taxes, but there is time for them to make their legislative purpose effective. Do a report, release it to the public, show what they found.
Scott MacFarlane and Nancy Cordes, there will be no shortage of conversations about process, procedure, votes, and lots of things hanging fire between now and Christmas. I thank you very much for your time.
You got it.